Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I am just finishing off a video all about book 2 in the Outlander series, Dragonfly and Amber. So I only had a little bit left to read after the last video that I did. So I finished that up and then I filmed an update and then I read the last 30 pages. Kind of a cool bookend to how the book starts. We're back with Roger, Brianna, and Claire in the future. Late 60s in Inverness. So yeah, that's the video that's coming up. I did really enjoy this book. It's between the two, it's my least favorite, but now I'm on Voyager, so we'll see how that one goes. Anyway, thanks for watching. Enjoy the video and keep reading. Okay, I just want to film a quick check-in on Dragonfly and Amber. I'm about 30 pages from finishing, so it's just the last little bit, and I know we're gonna be back with Roger and Brianna and Claire, yeah, talking about the story she just told, which is the story that I just finished reading. So yeah, she just left Jamie at the Stones, pregnant again. The last little bit of reading was tough, just because it's very emotional, Claire leaving. But I don't know, because I know I'm reading all the books, because I know I'm reading them quite quickly and in order. I wasn't that sad because I know that they're get back together. But yeah, it was definitely emotional. I forgot about Human Row. I forgot about him dying. That was tough to read. I didn't forget about Jamie killing Dougal, but I forgot how big of a deal it was for Jamie to do that. The Mary Hawkins stuff with Alex Randall and Jack Randall. Interesting. I feel like the storyline with them wasn't really finished in this book. Like, it just kind of ended, right? Jack and Mary get married, Alex dies, and they're just kind of, it's over. I don't know what more I would have wanted. Nothing more, I guess. Just felt a little like anticlimactic, I guess, with Jack Randall being such a horrible villainous character. But really, in this book, the villain is Prince Charles and the specter of Culloden. That's really like the big tragedy. So yeah, interesting. Kind of put me in a quiet mood, like a little bit of a low mood, just because it's emotional, I guess. And Claire has no idea what happened to Jamie. So yeah, I'm excited to read this part with Brianna and Roger. I know that will kind of not like lift me up, but I know that will kind of put like a different spin on it. And yeah, then on to the next book, I guess. Oh my gosh, it's like going by quick. But yeah, anyway, I'm glad that I finished this part. I don't know, it's just kind of depressing. All the Culloden stuff was kind of depressing. And like they eat the horses and all the people are just suffering and there's not enough food, there's not enough resources. It's just, that's hard to read about. So yeah, I'm anxious to get to better times, which are coming in this book. The last 30 pages, I think, are exciting. I think it ends at a cliffhanger again. I can't remember. But yeah, so I'm going to read those last 30 pages and I'll let you know. Very exciting. Hey everyone, I just want to finish off my video about Dragonfly and Amber. So I finished the book. I finished last night in the late hours, but I only had the last 30 pages or so to read, so it was pretty easy. Yeah, I took a couple videos as I was reading, so those will all have already happened in my like editing. So I guess I just want to talk about finishing the book and then my thoughts overall. So I was definitely right in my remembering that there was a cliffhanger ending. It was a total cliffhanger, and it made me really think about how it must have been to be reading it at the time. I looked it up, and Dragonfly and Amber, this book that I just finished, book 2, was published in 1992, and Voyager wasn't published until 1994. So in the Gabaldon universe, that's actually a really short period between books. The most recent period between books is 6 years, so 2 is kind of nothing. But at the time, it must have felt very long, because the last line of the book is Jamie didn't die at Culloden, and then the book ends. And of course, you know, you're wondering, okay, well, what's going on? Especially because Claire had just recounted to Roger all about her meeting with Galus in the Thieves' Hole in Outlander, and how Galus's last message to Claire was the year 1967, and the sentence, I don't know, but I think it's possible, meaning you can get back through the stones. And of course, Claire proved that that's possible because she already did it. So it leaves it open. Okay, Jamie didn't die at Culloden. Well, what happened to him? And of course, that's coming up in the next book. And more to the point, what's Claire gonna do about it, right? Because now she has perhaps some choices, not just, you know, living with the reality of her situation. So I thought that was really interesting, and it must have been very hard for the readers at the time to wait those 2 years. I can only imagine. I'm lucky, like I said before, I've never had to wait for a book until this most recent one, and it's not easy. So yeah, kudos to everyone who had to wait. The other thing that I wanted to mention was sorry, that was weird. I'll just have to edit that out. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the importance of Roger as a character, and kind of his genealogy that we learn a lot about in this book. So in this book, Claire describes his eyes as being the same eyes as Galus, and he sees a picture of her, and he recognizes his like eye profile in her, so that's very cool. And how he's a descendant of Dougal Mackenzie and Galus Duncan. And so that's interesting, because we know obviously Galus is a time traveler. She travels through the stones at the end of this book. Roger witnesses her murder of her current husband in order for her to get through the stones, because she thinks that that's a part of it. So not only does he hear kind of these stories from Claire, but then he witnesses it, and he witnesses just how far Galus is willing to go for himself, not just as a story. So I thought that that was interesting, and you know, Roger's genealogy, and how will that factor into the rest of the book? How important a character will he become? And how is he a foil and a partner for Brianna? So in this book, there's a clear flirtation and interest between the two of them. I thought that was very interesting. I think I said before in an earlier clip or an earlier video, I think that I had mentioned earlier that Brianna is not necessarily my favorite character. I think in this book, she doesn't get a ton of time, right? She is just meant to be this kind of disbelieving voice. She doesn't believe the story her mom is trying to tell her. She's very resistant to the idea that Frank, the man she grew up with as her dad, is not her biological father. And so she just can come off a little bit antagonistic, obviously because of the situation that she's in. Whereas Roger is a little bit more willing to suspend his disbelief, and kind of is more willing to be convinced by Claire, and more willing to do his own research and kind of figure it out. But he's a historian. I have to remember that Roger is a couple years older than Brianna, and he has just maybe more tools at his disposal, or I don't know, he's this historian, so he's used to researching, tracking things down, figuring it out. whereas Brianna is just a little bit younger, and for her it's extremely personal, whereas Roger is just that little bit removed until, of course, like I said earlier, the gala stuff comes up, right? Then he's more directly involved. So I thought that was very cool. I'm interested to focus a little bit more on their relationship and see how it develops in the next book. I can't really remember too much of how that goes in the early days. But yeah, I'm interested to kind of see. So yeah, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in Roger as a character. I'm a little bit interested in Brianna as a character. You know, we'll see how that goes. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was Galis Duncan's note-taking and how Claire tells Roger she's going to rob the institute where she's doing her studies into, you know, time travel and everything. I thought that was really interesting because it really shows that Claire kind of does what she wants, whereas Roger, like, it didn't even occur to him, right? And Claire is kind of the one planning and planting the seeds and setting things up, right? She sets up Roger to take Brianna with him to interview Galis's husband, and it's interesting how she kind of knows her daughter and is kind of trying to like play it behind the scenes and get her to believe the story. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting. The other thing that I want to talk about is some of the story is told from Roger's perspective, which is cool. And when he meets Claire, he describes her a couple times as like attractive and like comments on her body. And I know it's just him in his head, like he doesn't say anything about it, but that's interesting because she is old enough to be his mother. Like, she's old enough to be his mom, and he's interested in her daughter who's also there. But he comments a couple of times about how Claire's an attractive woman and he finds her appealing and all this stuff, and he finds Brianna more appealing. But I just thought that was funny. I don't know if men are really like that. Like, do they really think that about like their mothers-in-law? Like, is that something that like they think, oh, she's kind of hot? I just thought that was really weird. But I don't know, maybe it's very accurate. I really like Diana Gabaldon's writing style. She kind of puts in these things that I just think like, that's super weird, but people probably do think that, or there are probably some people who think that, right? Or you have this, you casually notice this and it's not a big deal, but you do notice. And yeah, it's interesting to see that Roger notices. Okay, that's all I want to say about this book. Those are all my thoughts so far. I did enjoy reading it. Like I said, I would not be doing this if I didn't enjoy it. I finished well within the time, so I finished a couple of days early from when we have to finish. Of course, it's not a have to, it's totally voluntary. The last day to read this book is the 25th, which I think is the Sunday, and today's Thursday afternoon. So yeah, I finished in a good time. I think I will probably read ahead. I'm gonna start Voyager next, obviously. I may not start tonight. I have it all set out. So I found my copy. I'm trying to keep organized. So I found my copy and I'm ready to read, but I may or may not start quite yet. I might wait until the weekend, see kind of what happens. But yeah, I did enjoy this book. Currently, out of the two that I've reread, I prefer Outlander Book 1 to Dragonfly and Amber, but I still really liked it. So yeah, give it a thumbs up if you have read this book, if you have reread this book, if you are eagerly anticipating November and Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone, please comment, let me know. You can like this video, leave a comment on it. I would love to be like chatting more about Outlander with people. And if you're a friend of mine who just watched this video to show your support, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So yeah, like and subscribe, comment if you have anything to say about Outlander, and I'll see you in the next one.